Hi everyone, welcome back. Oh, it's the 21st lesson, almost the end. And I just picked up the paper, like I have those little papers hanging on my wall over there with all the lessons on them. And I read the lesson, I didn't read it before, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so relevant to my life right now. It's like meant to be. Anyway, I'm glad to be back. I hope you're okay. I hope you're well. I hope spring is treating you well. And yeah, just sending a lot of love to you. I feel yesterday I was out on my bike and I was like biking through the city, and there were so many flowers that I saw and so many like green leaves coming up slowly, and it was such a good feeling. It made me feel so held and so like that there's this strength that is now coming up that is holding me, and I'm really happy about it. I love spring. Oh, really lifts up my spirits. I hope it does the same for you. I'm so grateful that I live in a place where I can experience the seasons. Yeah, it's a really big joy in my life to watch them change and to just be living in them, and I love it. Anyway, yeah, so we're back, we're here, and we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about this lesson. It says, so 21st lesson. It is so important for my own well-being to be honest with myself and others about my limits. It is so important for my own well-being to be honest with myself and others about my limits. Oh. If I think about the Heidi I used to be, I used to have no idea what my limits were, and honestly I didn't care. That was not something that I considered. I just wanted what I wanted, and I didn't think about any consequences that it might have on my body or on my spirit or on just me. And I mean, it was good. It led me to doing like a lot of things that I'm sure someone else wouldn't have done, because they would have considered the limits. And it brought me a lot of to a lot of cool places, and helped me to experience a lot of cool things. And now, I think now I would do it differently. And I'm sure there's always a time for everything, so it's fine that it was the way it was. But like long term, if I want to consider myself long term, makes way more sense to be honest with myself about and others about my limits. Yeah, and this entails that I know my limits, that I feel them, that I know what works for me and what doesn't. And of course that involves a lot of trial and error and adjusting, because the limits can change, and they can become they can just change over time. So it's good to always reassess again and again, whether they're still there, if I still want them or not, and what I need. Well, I think that's the big one for me, and something that was very not easy for me to communicate, or to just do in general when my depression started. And I mostly just drew back from a lot of people and didn't communicate what was going on very much or very openly. With some I did, with most I didn't. And for that, I think created a lot of confusion for everyone. And also, yeah, it was hard. It made me feel very isolated, and very lonely. So yeah, but I guess I just didn't know how to communicate it, and it was very hard for me to be honest with myself already, to really acknowledge what was going on, and that was really hard on me, let alone like communicate this with someone else. So it took I would say it took a long time for me to get there. Yeah, and to really honor my experience, and with that honor the things that are like too much for me, and the things that, and then to communicate that, and to say what my limits are. And that's not easy for someone who's, because I mean, as someone who's highly sensitive, as I really consider myself to be, growing up or having grown up around mostly people who are not like that, of course I compare myself or my limits to those around me. So like, yeah, I used to see other people being able to do things or tackle things or follow through with things that seemed like very totally achievable for them. And so of course I thought of myself as someone who was able to do those things as well, like may it be studying, may it be, I don't know, anything really. And yeah, over the course of the years of depression, I really had to readjust, of course, to my limits, or the limits that I was having in that time, and which were really different to everyone else's. And so like I really needed to learn to look at my own limits without comparing them to anybody else. By thinking, yeah, just because something works for someone else, it should be working for me as well, because that's just not the case. And I like, yeah, this is what I wish for everyone, like to know that we're all different, and that we all are allowed to have different sets of needs, and then that is okay. And that's actually the beauty of the beauty of the what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word now, but like, it's just a beautiful thing that we're all human, and we're all different, and we're allowed to be different, and that's what makes it so colorful. That's what makes life so colorful. Yeah, and I think I often like really downplayed my my experience, because I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be able to manage and handle things that my system is just, it's not made for. But I saw everyone else being okay with it, so I was like, why is it not working for me? And that was really hard, and at the same time very helpful, because the moment I started to really acknowledge my experience and really stand by it and communicate my limits, I realized how much easier life could be for me, and how much of like how many burdens I had put on myself that were very like really not necessary for me to carry, and that it was okay to live life not being completely overwhelmed the whole time. Oh. And that I was actually able to identify my limits and communicate them and set the boundaries that I needed. Even though it was a long way, and it was really scary to do that, because all my life I had known like only a different way. I had only known like adjusting and kind of making it work, while I was really having a hard time on the inside, which I was really unaware of for so many years. And then coming back to really honoring my experience and communicating what was working and what wasn't was really a big process and a big journey. And there's this big part of me that really is so scared of disappointing the people that I love. That was so loud. Like that voice was so loud in my head that it took me so much bravery to practice this and to really tell people what my limits were, knowing that I might disappoint them or make them upset, or that they might be angry at me because why is Sadie suddenly like this? Like, she used to be so easygoing and now suddenly she's so difficult. That was my thought in my head, and what I was afraid to just face. And wondering if there's any like specific story that I could go into about this. I think maybe I want to talk a little bit about my family. They were the people that are closest, or were closest to me for my whole life. And of course, I don't know if I've talked about this in another video before, but like if you think about it, if like you're pretty close in your family and then suddenly one family member has a depression that is really on like long term, like that really takes a long time. It's not just like a few months and then you're back up again and you got the support that you need and now you're okay again, but like something that really goes on for so many years and is seemingly not really going away from the measures that you measure it on. Like, I don't know, I was living at home since 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So now it's like the 7th year. And yes, I was studying like for a little while. And yes, I was going to therapy. I was going to a clinic. I went for clinic for a few weeks, for 10 weeks. I like had like this part-time job at an organic store, and I worked on myself and talked about it, but like other than that, nothing was happening. There was not really a big visual sign of, okay, I was getting better, and I was still struggling a lot for a long time. And so if you're in a family system where everyone's pretty close and then one person experiences that, of course it affects everyone else and scares everyone else and makes them really desperate to help you. Like, or that's how I felt like. Most people in my family were like really worried about me and wanted me to get better and wanted to help me and wanted to see me thrive, and had a really difficult time seeing me struggling and seeing me so down and not being okay with so many seemingly simple things, or not being able to cope with them. And so I feel like that was a huge strain on my whole family, and they really tried and really I would say gave me a lot of space to, or my close family, to express myself and really try to understand what I was going through. But it was really hard for them, and I really sympathize with them, because I think if I was in their shoes, I'd also have a really hard time to just accept that someone who I love so much is having such a hard time, and I would also feel the big desire to want to help them, or want them to get better, and do anything in my power to change that. And yeah, and our family didn't have, like, now looking back, I wonder, like, I think it would have been much easier on everyone if, like, the whole family would have had some kind of support in that time from someone who knew what it meant to go through depression, and who could kind of mediate maybe a little bit. Because not having someone like that meant that I had, like, there was no one who was like the bridge between my family and me. I had to kind of mediate, or like communicate what was going on while being in the midst of all of it, and that was a really difficult position to be in, to kind of having to explain myself while I really was struggling to just keep my head above water. And that was really not a cool position to be in. And yeah, in general, there wasn't much awareness of mental health stuff in my family, I would say. So it was just like very new territory for everyone. And yeah, and since I had such a hard time accepting everything that was going on with me, of course it was even harder for me to communicate it to the people that I desperately did not want to disappoint, or I didn't want them to worry about me. I just wanted to be connected to them, but didn't want to be like their charity case, or like someone they needed to fix. I just wanted to be their sister, their daughter, and be acknowledged as that. Yes, I think it was a really like a straining thing for everyone, for them as it was for me, which made it really even more difficult to navigate all of those years. And yeah, it was like everyone had to learn kind of how to position themselves, and in order to, or reposition themselves in order to kind of be able to handle this situation. And yeah, and I for me, I felt like I had to listen to them complain about how hard it was for them to handle my situation, while I was like, how can I handle your complaint while I'm the one who's struggling so much? Like, it was just, I would say it was just too much for everyone. And yeah, and I of course, like, I felt like everything I was doing so that I could love them better. I don't know if this sounds probably very weird and like weird to understand, because you would think, okay, if someone has depression, they just want to get better for themselves. But like, that wasn't the only case. My really, really big motivation were also the people who I love. Sorry. And I wanted to be able to be a really good sister and a really good daughter, and in the way that I imagine my, how just who I wanted to be. Like, I wanted to be able to be kind to them, and to acknowledge them and their feelings, and be able to be connected to them, and not push them away or something, which actually was what exactly what I needed in that time. Well, depending on the relationship, like, there are different people in my family, and for some it was a little bit okay to be a little bit more close to them, and first I'm a little bit less close. But yeah, I think I needed to learn over the course of the years that loving someone, biggest lesson of my life, I guess. Loving someone doesn't mean that you have to be insanely close to them all the time. It means you, like, loving someone can also mean that you need distance, or that you need boundaries and that you have limits, and that you're human, and that you're allowed to have those. And that it, like, loving someone doesn't mean that you have to be close to them at all costs, neglecting yourself, neglecting your own well-being in order to be close to them. Like, that is not love. And you are allowed to have your limits and communicate them and ask for them to be respected. And I think because of the dynamic and the relationships of the family that I grew up in, I didn't know what that was, because that didn't really exist in my family that much. There was not a big awareness on everyone's personal limits and boundaries, and that there was a need for those as well, for them to be respected. There was a lot of boundaries who were crossed, which I then integrated into my system and thought, okay, that's just how love works, and this is how you live as a human. So it felt like a scary and deadly thing to feel my limits and then to tell them my limits, because I felt like I was losing the love that I needed so desperately, and I was losing the relationships, and I felt like that is not love. Like, love means you are close to each other at all costs. And so it was scary to realize that I have limits and that I have to communicate them and kind of learn that relationship means also to have your limits and to express them and set your boundaries. So it's been, I would say, a huge journey for me, but also for my whole family. I feel like we kind of learned this together, and it was so hard and so scary. It felt like the whole family was falling apart, which kind of happened. My parents split up in 2020. But more than that, like, I think everyone was kind of afraid that we would lose each other in all of that. And I think now we're kind of at a better place, and I feel like now we kind of let go and stopped trying to hold on to each other at all costs. And now, like, there's a new possibility for us to connect in ways that are much healthier and much more honoring each person's limits. And I'm really grateful for that. And I would say it's still in the beginning of, like, this finding us as a family again, kind of in healthy ways. But it's also it feels good. It feels much lighter and much more appreciative, and much more honest and more real than what we had before, and more peaceful, I think. And that makes me very happy, because of course I love my family and I want to be able to be close to them in a way that is okay or good for everyone. So I guess, like, what's the word? Advocating for my own well-being was really what was needed big time in my life that I really, really didn't know before. And yeah, I would say in like learning this lesson, I also had to accept that some relationships in my life really needed to end, and that there was no chance for them to continue, because my limits were just, I had ignored my limits in order to be in those relationships, like in this one long love relationship, for example, that I was talked about, I think 2 videos ago. I had really not respected my limits there, and had like tried to make it work because I loved him so much and just wanted to be close to him, and I wanted it to work no matter what, like no matter the cost. And it was so hard for me to accept that it didn't work for me, and that if I really truly wanted to love myself, I had to say goodbye to this person. And like, he's not a bad person. I mean, he's a really, really good person. Just the constellation and I would say the situation that both of us were in was just too much for both of us to hold together. And yeah, I think that was really when I broke up with him. That was like the biggest, I would say, stepping stone of my whole journey. Because I had felt like I needed him for years and years. And and saying goodbye to him was like saying yes and welcome to myself, including all my limits and the things that I had felt ashamed about for so long, like that I'm so sensitive and so in need of relationship and support and love. And I had felt ashamed of that for so long, and had tried to kind of downplay it and brush it off. But when I finally like allowed myself to really see and acknowledge my needs and who I was, then I had to adjust my surrounding and my relationships to that. And that meant that to communicate with him then last year that this wasn't working for me anymore. That was really hard. And also it was the most loving thing because it was so honest. And sorry, I think being honest is more loving than anything else. And especially being honest with yourself. And I feel like I'm still learning this again and again. Maybe in smaller ways, but I am kind of like the universe is asking me for confirmation again and again. Okay, so you still honor your limits? Do you? Let's send you a small challenge so that we can see how you react to that. Like, I had that recently, and I think I did pretty well. Like, it took me a little while because I still have those patterns of wanting to be, because I feel so deeply, and I feel like I'm able to really feel deeply for people. Those feelings sometimes like overshadow anything else, and then I don't stop to think, okay, but what are actually my limits? Like, what can I actually give here, and what is actually making me feel good, or what is what I actually need? And then like coming back to myself is always a little bit of a journey, but I've I'm getting better at it, and I think I'm doing pretty good so far. Yeah, so that's why I said in the beginning that I feel like it's very relevant, because I've had a similar situation now recently again, and yeah, and I'm sure we all have those things that are kind of more difficult for us than maybe for others, or where we struggle more, like some kind of part of our lives that we struggle more in than in others, which also means that we can collect a lot of wisdom in those parts of our lives, because we need more care, and we need to give more love and more attention and care to them than maybe other people who don't struggle so much with it. Yeah. I think for me that's love relationships. It's been a struggle for me for a really long time, and I think it's something that means so much to me. And I really I give all of my heart into it every time, and yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's such a big deal for me. And yeah, a lot of growth and a lot of learning has happened in that part of my life, and I've learned so much about myself. So I'm grateful for it, and at the same time I'm a little bit, wondering, okay, I've been working so hard in this area of my life, when will I ever reap the fruit? Reap, yeah. Reap what I've been sowing, and I've been really tending to and nurturing. I've nurtured this aspect of my life for so long, and really looked at it and tried to grow as a person with it. So I really wish that sometime soon I'll be able to finally live all those desires that I have, and be in a partnership that really nourishes, in a love relationship that nourishes me and the other person, and really honors our limits, both our limits. And yeah, I'm sure all those lessons and everything that I've learned has made me, prepared me kind of for this. So let's see what's coming. All right. Anything else? Yeah, this being able, when you want to live this way, it requires, or in my experience, it requires me to be connected with myself a lot, and to really check in with myself again and again. Is this working for me, or what do I need now? Do I have to adjust anything? And it's really a constant caring and tending to what I need. And that, of course, it takes a lot of practice, and also a lot of tools, I would say, to kind of find ways to connect with myself. And I don't know, for me that's journaling, yoga, anything that brings me back into my body, dancing, singing, talking about it with people I trust, reflecting, calming my mind in order to find what's really going on, and so many things. And of course that takes a lot of dedication and practice, and at the same time I'm really noticing how, now that I've been doing this for so many years, and I've really dedicated myself to understanding myself and knowing myself and feeling into myself, it's much easier for me. And I notice it's going much quicker, that I know what I need, or maybe that my to-do list needs an adjustment, or my plans for the day, when I'm noticing, okay, I've reached my limit, I need to change my plans now, and be able to communicate that. I remember when I was working at the organic store, I talked about that in the last video, I think, yeah. Whenever I was on my period and I couldn't work, it was like the biggest struggle for me to say I couldn't come, or when I was sick, because there was always this voice in me, oh, come on, you can do it, like, just don't don't be so sensitive, like, you can push through. And I felt so guilty then when I had like said I couldn't come. I felt like, oh, now they have more work because I didn't go and I'm failing them. Sorry. And was a big shift for me to go through, from like wanting to please other people so badly and neglecting my own limits, and to being able to really feel very nuanced, like in a very nuanced way, what I need, and then communicate it with a lot of peace of mind, because I know that I need to be my own biggest priority, and my well-being needs to be my biggest priority. And I think this this comfort, like the fact that I feel so comfortable with it now, is because I've experienced so many times again and again that if I go against it, like, I will fall down so hard and it will take me a really long time to get back up. So I've kind of accepted that, okay, there's no point in pushing myself when I know it's above my limits, because I will pay for it big time if I don't respect my limits now. I will pay for it in the future, and then much more than if I had just listened to them earlier on. I think that's what gives me a lot of peace of mind, and helps me to to be okay with maybe disappointing other people, maybe even making them a little bit upset or sad if I cancel on someone or something. It's been a huge shift in my life and has given me a lot of agency back, and it has given me a lot of confidence in myself again, where before I had felt like at the mercy of all those outside factors for so long, where now I know, okay, the outside factors, they exist, and also I have a lot of agency in my life, and I can say no. I can say no. I'm allowed to say no, and I'm capable to say no, and I'm able to hold my no and live with it, because I deserve to be well, and I deserve to be healthy. I deserve to have what I need, and I deserve to be looked after by myself, and I deserve to have space to recover and recuperate when I need to, and I deserve to recharge when my limits have been reached, and I am allowed to listen to my limits and honor them. All those things I have learned with so much trial and error and so many fails. And I'm sure there will be many more fails in my life, and that's okay. It's not about being perfect, it's about practicing again and again. And I hope that I could encourage you a little bit with this video now to look at that in your life as well, and to really feel encouraged by my story, to really honor your limits and communicate them with peace, because you're allowed to have your limits. You're human, and you're not a robot. You have ups and downs, you have your waves, and you have a body that needs to be taken care of, and that needs to be priority. And I really hope that you find ways to to live this in your life as well. I know it's not always perfectly like you're not always able to do that fully, and sometimes you need to go above your limits in order to kind of survive in the moment and then maybe break down after, and you're very much aware of that you're doing that, and that's okay as well. I think it's just about practicing. All right. Is there anything else? I don't know. I think I've said everything that I wanted to say. Thank you so much for being here with me, for listening, and if there's anything that comes up for you, feel free to share as usual. I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful that you're here, and yeah, the next video will not come out next Friday because I think I won't be here. I'm traveling. I'm going to see my dad tomorrow. He lives very far north. It's a very long journey, and I'll be there for a week, possibly a week. Depends on the strike of the trains here in Germany. I would have actually gone there like 2 days ago already. Or no, yesterday. I would have gone yesterday, but the strike is happening today and yesterday. And so I'm only gonna be able to take the train tomorrow, which is fine as well. And also what I wanted to say in the beginning, but I completely forgot, Happy International Women's Day. Yeah, I hope if you're a woman, you feel very celebrated today, and if you're not a woman, I hope that you get to celebrate the women in your life a little bit today. It's such an honor to be a woman. I love being a woman, and I love that this day exists. I think it's so amazing. Women are just incredible beings, and they deserve the celebration. Of course, men do too, and I don't know if there's an International Men's Day. I don't know. I'm really grateful for this one. All right, then I hope you have a good rest of your day. Sending you so much love and lots of blessings, and may your spring continue to bring you a lot of joy and goodness into your life. All right, see you soon, and all the best to you. Bye.